Welcome to Blender. With the baked asset being set up already, there's the pre-baked base color texture, the roughness made via color ramp in Blender, the baked normal map and the displacement map. The principled BSDF set up automatically with all these maps with using the Ctrl-Shift-T hotkey to bring all maps into Blender automatically. After switching to cycles, however, we will see two things: one positive, the displacement is working, and one pretty sad, that the displacement is causing massive spikes. The spikes can be reduced via painting the mask. So the mask should come into play just before hitting the displacement node. Shift-A, color, mix RGB node, drop it in between the texture and the displacement. Because the mid-level of the displacement is 0, the black color, or 0, 0, 0 in the RGB terms, equals no displacement at all. We just need to paint the black and white mask to selectively reveal the 0 displacement in some areas, mainly in the areas with spikes. So this texture will serve as a mask exactly. I'm gonna press New, call it Mask Displacement. The default color is black, in other words, nothing happening. And the white portions of the mask will tell Blender, hey, use the zeroing out effect here. Negate these spikes, do something with it. In order to paint on the mask, we should enter the texture painting mode, obviously. To fully engage the effect, we need to be painting with pure white, with the strength set to 1 preferably. And in the texture slots drop-down menu, I will select the mask displacement. That's our mask. Now, this method has a flaw. It isn't super intuitive. When we paint in the rendered mode, in order to see the effect, we need to reset it by entering the solid shading mode and back rendered. Like we painted here the white spot, which should mask the spike. And upon re-entering the rendered mode, we will see it come into play, but no earlier. So that's something to keep in mind. We can paint in the rendered mode, but then we need to redraw the viewport or reset the viewport to see the effect. Aside from this peculiarity, the rest is pretty straightforward. Just mask out the areas that were spiking. Or any other areas for that matter, that you think will benefit from the slightly flatter look. I think we pretty much covered the window frame. Only the spikes on the left are to be fixed. Okay, looks fine to me. I think I would prefer the inner frame of the window to be slightly more wavy, so I'm gonna select the off-white color to bring in some displacement back. And yeah, it looks great, I think. Aside from the displacement mask, there is one more mask left to be covered, and that is the alpha mask that will control the transparency of the surface. I switched over to the Eevee rendered mode, and down in the settings, I'm changing the blend mode to alpha hashed and the shadow mode to alpha hashed as well. Then we can adjust the alpha parameter of the BSDF shader using the second mask. So let's create some room for the extra node. Shift-A, texture, image texture. Let's create a new one called alpha. The resolution can stay the same. The color though should be white, meaning fully opaque. And we'll be painting with black. Okay. Make sure it is hooked up to the alpha input. Then jump into the texture paint mode once again. This time, just for the change, I'm gonna be using this menu for selecting colors and all that stuff. The alpha texture should be activated for painting, the usual business. Now let's give it a try. Why no effect? Ah yeah, we need to be painting with black. So we can press X to toggle between black and white. And what we can do is carefully draw the mask. I'm not sure I like the smoother fall off. I think I will make it a bit harsher like that. Way too harsh. Let's tone it down a bit. Yeah, something like that. If you think about it, the alpha map gives us the opportunity to control the edge of the mesh, and that's something that can't be easily done with the low poly objects. The point of low poly is to have the controllable amount of polygons, so we can't fine-tune the edge geometrically beyond a certain threshold. The alpha mask, on the other hand, gives us such opportunity, which at the same time works nicely in a synergy with displacement and other techniques to fake the detail of high poly mesh. Even though it's a very, you may say, fake technique, it works beautifully in both cycles and Eevee and real-time applications for that matter. Well, maybe with some optimizations, like the fall-off shouldn't be smooth between opaque and transparent areas. It is pretty demanding in terms of resources. It should be pretty much clipped, and then it becomes performant. Anyway, let's not forget to save the images that we have just painted. The displacement mask and the alpha. I'm using TIFF, the 8-bit TIFF, nothing too special here. The asterisk near the image tells us that it hasn't been saved and can be lost on quitting Blender. Aside from that, congrats, I think we captured a pretty nice three-dimensional asset overall. Even though it started as a soup of polygons, we managed to turn it into a nicely usable asset, I think.